What's up, folks? Welcome to 𝗬𝗏𝗠𝗃𝗏. I hope everyone can hear me loud and clear. I'm doing this from my hotel room once again. I'm in New Mexico. I'm in Ruidoso, New Mexico, enjoying the scenery, the mountains. Going to try to do a little fishing out here for trout. See what I can catch. I like catching, not so much fishing. If it takes too long, I give up after about 10, 15 minutes. I'm like, ADD. But they say I need to work on that. So maybe the fishing will help, but we'll see. Folks, hit the notification button. Hit the notification button. Like, share, subscribe. Please help me help you. I got Larry Ballard joining me today. But first, congratulations to Spencer Pratt. He's moving forward. He's going to have 5 more months to expose 𝗂𝗃𝗏𝗏 from what he says. And he says, clearly, God chose me for this time. Folks, I am so happy Spencer Pratt is moving forward, even if it's just to expose 𝗂𝗃𝗏𝗏. This is epic. It's awesome. And like I've said, I don't think you understand. This is the Democrats' last stand. This is it for them. And I don't think this is going to go in the direction that they believe it is going to. I think there's going to be a lot of monumental shifts coming, especially after 𝗀𝗏CE Gabbard exits the DNI. I'm telling you right now, big things. She's not leaving with a whimper, folks. She's leaving with a bang. Yeah. All right. So I got Larry Ballard coming on. This is going to be a great show. He's bringing forward a PowerPoint presentation to help you understand the Great Reset. What does it entail? A lot of people are scared of this right now. I get it. I understand. So let's hope that Larry Ballard can bring some clarity to all of us to help us understand. Are we going back to a gold-backed system? Are we going back to constitutional money? I mean, I'm sounding the alarm bells with all these AI data centers, and I'm scared to death of this digital currency that it looks like we're headed towards. So maybe Larry can help clear that up for me. So hopefully that happens. Folks, Venmo, �D-Rod1977, �D-Rod. You have a question for me on there, go ahead, knock it out. Also, when the lights go out on Amazon, please leave an honest review. My mama's book as well, The Mexican Mix. Please leave an honest review on that. Also, 𝗬𝗏𝗠𝗃𝗏𝗏. Get yourself a hat like this one, Nino's Corner. Get yourself a hoodie. Get yourself a shirt and coffee mugs. We got stickers. We got the whole thing. We're going to be bringing a new line as well. So we're going to be consistently changing the lineup of clothing. So, we're trying to stay ahead of the game here. Also, folks, the big sale on 𝗬𝗏𝗠𝗃𝗏𝗏 still up. I'm still doing it. People seem to like it. You pay once and you live forever on 𝗬𝗏𝗠𝗃𝗏𝗏. One payment, never bothered again. It gets rid of the headaches and the heartaches when you leave me. You can leave me now. You cannot leave David. You will not leave David. So, yeah. So I think that's pretty cool. One payment and you're there for life. All right, folks. Also, 𝗬𝗏𝗠𝗃𝗏𝗏. I got Wano saving up there right now talking about Tina Peters and 𝗀𝗏CE Gabbard. The double knockout punch. That's what's coming. The double knockout punch. And the ghost. The ghost talking about Watch the Water and the 10 Days of Darkness. I leave that for you to decide, folks. We're all adults here. You make up your own mind. I just bring the pieces of the puzzle to fit for you all, and you all decide. Also, Ben Swann. Guess what, folks? I don't know if you're familiar with Ben Swann, but Ben Swann is the journalist that broke Pizzagate and the Obama kill list. Now, this is the guy that did it. And guess what? He's from El Paso. I knew this guy. I looked at him. I go, bro, where do I know you from? Well, I'm from El Paso. Bingo! I knew it. He did the local news in El Paso. There must be something in the water here because we all have some really big balls. He put his life on the line. He put his neck on the line, his career, everything, to break these stories. I don't know, like a real journalist does. He did this in 2017. And, I knew I recognized him. He used to do the local sports in El Paso. Small world. Anyway, I had him on the show. That's on 𝗬𝗏𝗠𝗃𝗏𝗏. Right when I'm done with this, I suggest you watch it. This guy's just getting started, folks. He's a fellow El Pasoan like me. And I'm telling you, this must be something in the water. Yeah. Remember, June 15th to the 17th, I'll be in Vegas. I'm hosting the event. I don't know how they talked me into this. I have such bad social anxiety. I guess Juan knew. Like, chances are I might not show up. So he threw the whole bingo, you're going to host it. And I'm like, what? So I don't know. So there we are. I'm going to be hosting the event June 15th. He's smart. He's a smart guy. Oh, boy. So there we are, the Fraud Fighter Summit. I'm pretty sure Larry Ballard will go as well. I think 𝗵𝗂𝗶𝗹 is going to be doing a remote. RFK could be there, or he's doing a remote. Steve Bannon will be there. Roseanne Barr will be there. Hopefully she sings the national anthem. I don't think any of us want to see that. All right, folks. And without further ado, you might want to turn it up or turn it down. I'm going to go through my little spiel again. Here we go, see? Coming at you live from the apocalypse, folks. Yeah. All right. So here we go. This is how I'm going to go into this. Good morning, everybody. As of the latest, wow, I'm really fucked up today. Sorry. Today we're discussing one of the biggest topics. This is the biggest, circulating across financial and economic communities. The idea of a monetary reset and a potential transition toward a gold-backed financial system. Now, it's important to note that many of these discussions involve proposals, theories, and predictions rather than confirmed government policy. However, concept itself has captured the attention of investors, economists, and everyday citizens around the world. Supporters argue that a gold-backed system could provide greater stability by linking currency to a tangible asset with a long history of preserving value. They believe such a system could help restore confidence in money, reduce inflammatory pressures, and encourage greater fiscal discipline. Critics, on the other hand, which there's a lot of them, especially the Democrats, point out that modern economies are vastly more complex than they were during previous gold standard eras. They argue that tying currency directly to gold could limit flexibility during economic crisis and create challenges for global trade and growth. As we move through today's program with Larry Ballard, I want you to pay close attention to what this man says. He's highly researched. He studies well. He does amazing PowerPoint presentations, and this is why I'm bringing him on, because he's an incredible individual. I really love this guy. And without further ado, folks, you might want to get your noble gold. Speaking of gold, you better get on it. If you could go back in time and buy oil before the world, oh boy, relied on it. There you go. There's the word. Would you? Of course you would. So why aren't you buying silver and gold right now? Silver powers solar panels, electric vehicles, AI, and the data centers running our digital world. Silver does this. Demand is climbing, yet it is still affordable enough to start buying today, folks. You've seen this gone volatile. It's bipolar. Right now would be the time to buy silver and gold. Don't be the person who looks back in 10 years and says, well, I saw it coming. I just didn't act on it. Take advice from Nino. You better jump on this. And Noble Gold Investments is the place to do it. I trust them. I trust them with my money. You should trust them as well. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com. Noblegoldinvestments.com, folks. Get on it. Believe me. I told you, Juanito came to El Paso and brought me a safe. I just wish that safe was full of gold, but it was empty. So whatever. But I got the picture. All right, let's bring Larry Ballard on. Larry, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Nino. I'll tell you, I have nowhere near the verbosity that you have, but we'll get through this. I'll do the facts, you do the comedy, all right?
Okay, so all right. So I didn't bring my charger for the computer, so my fault. I thought I did. I didn't bring it. So let's see. Don't speed through this to the point that you fumble the words or whatever. Let's try to make this make sense to everybody, because I know you have a stellar PowerPoint. I love your PowerPoint presentations. So what are we going to learn today? Just what the Great Reset entails, because it looks like Donald Trump is, I think, this month going to be putting his signature on money, which to me shows this is a step in the right direction. And the $250 bill, which that sounds good to me, the $250 bill will have his face on it, right?
Okay. Yep, I think so. That's what I've heard.
Okay, so this to me is monumental. It's a huge marker to me, and it looks like we're going in the right direction. I'm going to let you take it away from here, Larry. Go for it.
All right, let's go to that first slide. This is the name of the presentation, the reset, what to expect. So let me give you some framing. This is foundational. Basically, I'm going to go to about 4 slides. I'm going to tell you why I think we've now walked in to the point in time where the reset's occurring and what it's about. And this is part of a much, much bigger presentation. It's a part of a 6-part presentation. But for Nino, he can't have me on 6 weeks in a row. So what I've done is I've abbreviated this in a very significant fashion. So if you want to see the whole thing, you can go to my channel, Liberty Crusade Official, and get the details. But we're going to dive in now to why I think we're in this reset. And then following this, the next 2 or 3 weeks, if Nito wants to do them, I'm digging deep. I've got an unbelievable presentation put together on what is 𝗬𝗏. How do you fund it? What is it? Everything you ever wanted to know about it. Then we dive down into the currencies. Is it likely to reset? What's the whole story there? And then we go down into XRP and then all the digital currencies. That's 3 shows that are queued up that could follow this one. So let's go to the next slide. And real quickly, I'll just encourage you to click on that QR code. If you follow me, you can buy that book. If you know the quality of the work I do, you know it's in that book just like it is in these slides. But if you don't know me, click on that QR code anyway, and I'll give you a free chapter of the book that you can read so you can decide if you want it. Why this book is important is I spent 57 years waiting for God to tell me I could release it. And this is the point in time where the whole republic is going to change. And what we need are citizens who understand what a republic is and are capable to step in and take the positions that are vacated in the banking industry, in the corporate industry, and most importantly, in the political arena. We need millions of people who will stand up and fight for this republic. And when we have our special elections and all of the politicians at the state, local, and federal level are removed, we need people who know what a republic is, who know what the American Revolution was, who know all about our Constitution, who are empowered to be our next generation of leaders. So let's go on down, and we're going to dig into this. Now, what we're seeing here is I basically at this point is making a prediction. I looked at Donald Trump go to China. I said, there's something fishy here. He took 18 of the biggest executives in the world. Something's happening behind the scenes that we don't know. So what I do is, for those who follow me, I always go through history. I always go through the Bible. I always try to tie pieces together so I can give you some insights that other people don't give you. So what I'm going to give you is my version of a 60,000 square foot view of the fact that this reset is happening right now. So to do that, I go back to Britain and I give you a quick history lesson. The World War II was over. All the nations of the world were decimated. We're the only nation in the world that has functional manufacturing, and we have most of the world's gold, and the world comes to us and says, we've got to get order out of chaos. You, America, the only ones that can do it, and that's going to be the case this time too. We're uniquely positioned to bring the world out of this chaos into order. So they said, we only got really one requirement. We need you to be willing to exchange your currency for gold at any point in time. And we said, fine. And that stayed until England, our mortal enemy, orchestrated a set of circumstances that led to Richard Nixon in 1971 coming on TV on that black and white picture and saying, we are temporarily suspending the conversion of the dollar into gold. It was never meant to be temporary. It was always going to happen. Now we go forward into history with this next bullet point, and then comes Carter, and they said, you know, America's getting too powerful. We've got to strip the power from America, create a completely new world economic system. And what was it? They created a super capitalist communist economy led by China. And what's that mean? They wanted the innovation of capitalism of America, but they wanted the control of a dictatorship. And that's what we've been living under ever since then. And so we go on down, and we are finally decoupling from Europe. If you listen to the things that Trump's been saying, at how he's poking at NATO, poking at the UN, poking at England, he's finally saying, world, we've been sleeping with our mortal enemy. We came here to get away from England, to get away from the European nations. And finally, we're finding out that we're sleeping with the enemy, and that's going to change everything. So for 76 years, Britain and Europe used the U.S. to protect them. And Donald Trump's putting them on notice. We don't have to protect you. You cannot protect yourself. You've let your military atrophy. If you want us to protect you, by God, you're going to pay for it, and you're going to pay for it dearly. So the whole thing is changing. He's threatening to basically walk away from NATO. Let's go on down. The post-war order is over. The U.S. is pulling away from control by Europe. And as we get into a couple of slides in here, you'll see that he's gradually going to get us out of the UN, out of NATO, out of OPEC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then going down to the last bullet point on this slide, by controlling the strings in Iran and their proxies, here's what's been happening for my entire lifetime. Europe has funded Iran, and that they've facilitated their control of the straits. They've put their proxies out there. They've kept the world in a constant state of tension and war. And what does that do? That makes the cost of oil, the lifeblood of the world, super expensive, which means whether you realize it or not only are we on a fiat paper system, but we're on a system that makes it so costly to buy the necessities of life that for many people, we simply can't afford them. That's the system that we're in. That's what's going to be removed. Let's go on down. This is where I made my leapfrog into saying, I believe we're now on the reset. So now I fast forward to another economic turning point, and that is in 1985. And by the way, Bretton Woods is a hotel, and the Plaza is a hotel, and these were where economic accords were signed. In 1985, the U.S. invited the most important one, Japan, Britain, France, and West Germany, and said, we got a problem. America's currency is too strong. That makes it difficult for us to compete effectively in the global trade market. You got to help us. You've got to suppress our currency. The nation that got zinged on that the most was Japan. Eventually, Japan's currency got so valuable that they had the same problem we had. They couldn't compete in international markets, but it was more serious for them than it was for us because we have the world's biggest domestic market, and we also had the world's largest international market, but Japan's a small island. So they didn't have that big domestic market that we have. So when that happened and they couldn't compete competitively in the global market, they were really, really impacted. And that went to a multi-decade period of stagflation in Europe, in Japan, where they had to lower their interest rates, and that led to the carry trade that we're seeing. That's going to affect the bond market. Part of what Nino is going to be hosting with Juan. So basically, that's what's going on. And what I'm predicting is that the set of circumstances that existed then exist today. So I'm going to go through Japan and its circumstances and tie it to China. They had a small domestic market. They needed relief. They needed to be able to sell internationally. They had the oldest economy, the oldest population in the world. So they didn't have the manpower to man their factories. They needed to come to the United States, the largest domestic market in the world, build their factories, use our labor, and be able to expand their reach to the world. That's what they did. That's exactly the same situation that China's in today. So now, before we get deep into this, I'm going to give you a high-level geopolitical overview of the changing global superpower structure. So let's go to the next slide. So what's happening is America is consolidating its power while other nations are basically fracturing. So what America is doing, what Donald Trump is doing, is reinitiating the Monroe Doctrine, where he said, China, you're out, Russia, you're out. The Western Hemisphere belongs to me, to us. We're going to make friends with our nations. We're going to patch things up with Canada. We're going to patch things up with Mexico. We're going to treat South America and Latin America and South America the way they should be treated. We're going to stop imposing Western hegemony on them so that we hold them down, which breeds the situation that causes the cartels. Instead, we just bailed Argentina out. They were about to have a bond collapse, and we're basically negotiating a new trade agreement with Canada and Mexico, and we're going to help those nations be able to get their natural resources and sell them as finished products so they can get in economic parity with the United States. That's the only way that you have peace in the world, and only way we control the power. So that's what's emerging in the United States. Then jump over to Australia, and even though they're in the Eastern Hemisphere, they have been aligned with us for a long time. So I think they will be loosely associated with America and our Western Hemisphere policies. Now let's go to Europe. There are apps. I've got whole shows on each one of these, the rest of this slide. So this is just a real quick. They're falling apart. They've been inflicted by a bureaucratic government in Brussels that said, you will take millions and millions of Muslims in who will destroy your nation, and you will implement the green technology that will collapse you. They're fracturing. And then Russia is bleeding because this war didn't go the way they expected. And now the Ukraine drones are able to go deep into Russia and attack their oil. And any nation, history shows us, that relies primarily on a single source of income ultimately gets in trouble. Russia's in trouble. China's in trouble. So all three of these nations, they're weakening while we're strengthening. China has the same age problem that Japan had. They say within a few years they'll have more people in the pens than they will children in diapers. So they don't have the manpower. Their real estate has collapsed. Their manufacturing is being taken away. That takes us to India and to the rest of the area around China. India is going to benefit and grow because of everything leaving China, but there's limits to what's going to happen in India. Some say it's going to be the next China. It's not going to be, because it has 27 different dialects, because when it began to grow, it missed. It went in the wrong way. It went into a focus on service, and service industry is going to be taken over by AI. It should have gone into manufacturing. So India will grow, but never going to be China. And China is never going to be the sole power of the world like people think. Now we go to the Middle East. And this is where I really have some in-depth shows that you need to come and listen to. But right now, I'll just give you the high-level overview. We're going to see something happen that people never saw. We have entered into the Abraham Accords. We have protected the Middle East nations as this war went on.
Larry, Abraham Accords, can you explain that to my audience? Because that's very controversial in itself. Can you explain that to my audience? What are the Abraham Accords?
It's basically just an agreement that says, hey, we're going to stop being enemies. Here's the truth of it. I don't care what they say. Here's what it is. It doesn't matter what any nation or opposing nation's ideology is. That is, they're going to do what they want to do behind the scenes. But coming forward, looking at it on the surface, the Arab nations are saying, we want peace. We are tired of being in constant conflict and constant war, having our people killed, having our economy suppressed. We want peace. So what's happening in the Middle East, take it out of the Abraham Accords and take it into something deeper. We gave the Muslim oil-rich nations in the Middle East during this conflict with Iran the equivalent of the Iron Dome that we gave to Israel. So we protected them. So when we protect them, and we're doing some of the other things that we're doing, we're building the most sophisticated logistics system in the world that's going to go from India to Saudi Arabia, through Saudi Arabia, terminating one link of it in Israel and going on to Europe. We're basically becoming business partners. So what happens is all those nations are basically saying, forget our ideology. We'll do what we want to do in the background. If we want to still keep funding the mosque in Europe, we'll do it. But for the face of the world, we're going to look like we're really, really partners. And so we're going to see those accords grow and get more powerful. And we're going to see peace in the Middle East. That's going to allow us to go into what I'm talking about in the next 3 weeks, which is officially go into 𝗧𝗏. And one of the accords in 𝗧𝗏 says you've got to have global peace. You can't have global peace if the Middle East is constantly trying to kill us and we're constantly fighting. So basically, put it in a nutshell, it means for whatever peace.
I got another question. Do you believe that we're going to continue the war in the Middle East with Iran and going to Turkey, going to Egypt, or is that going to be, do you think Trump is going to turn on Benjamin Netanyahu and shut it down?
Absolutely. This war will end relatively quickly. I don't know what we've gone is from a kinetic war to a siege, an old-fashioned siege. Now, we may have to have some more kinetic activity involved in the middle, but when you've got a siege, you've only got two outcomes. If you are like the IRCG and you're absolutely radical, you may be willing to starve to death. You may be willing to take the whole population down so that you can maintain control, because if this war ends, your power base is gone. But in the final analysis, we're going to bleed them dry. They are going to have no choice. Their capacity to store oil is almost up. And when they shut those oil wells down, then their long-term economic position is basically out. And here's where I go. I've got a whole show, and I opened it with, guess what? I read the Bible. And guess what the Bible tells me? It predicted this war 2,000 years ago. There was a nation called Edom, which was going forward was Persia, which going today is Iran. And it said that nation had an extraordinary amount of power, not because of its size, but because of its location and what would be the lifeblood of the world in the future. That's the oil. And it said, I will put a hook in their mouth, and they will come down, and peace will come upon the world. That's the outcome. That's it. And so basically, everybody's trying to make it look like, the world's going to come together and Trump's going to have to end this war beforehand. No, I can tell you this. The Muslim nations that are oil-rich nations are now on our side, and they don't want to live in this fear anymore. They want peace. So they're saying, Trump, sick them, go get them. 31 nations are now joining with us. Nations are coming in, and Trump said, I did the heavy lifting. You come in and take the mines out. And so basically, it's going to be a little nasty, but this war is going to end, and we're going to have peace in the Middle East and peace in the world, and 𝗧RA is going to trigger in, and we can talk about that next week if you want to. So let's go on down. So the Middle East is actually been very smart. They know that there's a limit to how much oil they have, and they've been investing in high tech around the world and in America, and they've been attracting a significant amount of tourism. So their economy, unlike Russia and unlike China, well, unlike Russia in particular and Iran, is diversified. So they're going to be in a position to grow just like America during this. And Africa is going to surprise the world. Africa, if you look at it in terms of the new economic system based on commodities, is actually got more natural resources than any nation in the world. And here's what they've said. They said, Russia get out, China get out, America get out. You want to come back? Here it is. You will come back and give us equitable agreements. We will mine our goods and send them out as finished goods, and we will become your competitors. And what they've done to prepare for that is they got a digital electronic system across the world for payment, across Africa for payment, and they basically wiped out all the borders. So just like I can go from the United States to Canada with just a driver's license, you can do the same thing in Africa. Africa is going to be one of the most powerful, richest nations in the world over the next 10 to 20 years. So that's what the world is looking like as we go into this reset. Comments or questions before we go in?
No, keep going. It's interesting. Go for it.
We're going to go down now. I'm going to give you a deep dive. This is going to position you for next week. If Nino asks me back and we get into 𝗧RA, this is what Donald Trump is doing. This is his economic plan. Every time we have a reset in the past, this is what they do. They basically hold gold at a very low price. In 33, it was at $35. They took it and then they raised it 69%. Now gold is on the books at $42 while it's selling for $4,500. And Donald Trump says, I am going to take gold to $20,000 or above. Now, what happens when you do that? Trump is locked into this first piece of this equation. So the global financial elite always raise the value of gold. And then what that does is that means that it makes it look like there's additional assets. And so the debt to income ratio is reduced and making it look like, hey, we're not in as bad a shape as we thought. So that's what Trump's doing. That's phase one, gold to $20,000. Then Bitcoin, he's not paying for any of that Bitcoin. He's confiscating it from our enemies. That's where it's coming from. And he said, I'm going to raise that to $1 billion. That becomes a massive, if you look at the gold being revalued from $42 to 20,000 plus and Bitcoin at $1 million, that's a huge strategic reserve. That means the U.S. has assets. Then what it's going to do is go on the new economic system, the one you said you're afraid of, where we basically have a government economy that's based on commodities, which means you have to have XRP so that you can fractionalize anything and transmit it in.
How important, out of all the cryptocurrencies, how important is XRP?
XRP is the rail. Everything else are the feeders that feed into the rail. XRP is the system that provides the liquidity to transfer trillions of dollars around the world in 3 to 6 seconds and can take anything, a Mona Lisa, a ship full of oil, a ship full of wheat, and fractionalize it to the smallest possible denomination so it can be used as currency. It is crucial. Everything else, all the other ISO 2022 compliances, they're pieces to the puzzle that connect in to allow the bridge, the superhighway, which is XRP. So that's where Trump is at. And what happens when he does this, I need to tell you, here's the bad news. He has to do it. We've got BRICS putting pressure on us. We've got the bond market that Juan is going to be talking about, and you're going to be hosting. That's putting pressure on the U.S. dollar. We have to allow the economy to collapse to a certain degree because we have to get control of the money. He who controls the money controls the world. But what Trump is doing here is setting a floor on that collapse so that we don't go to the point that the whole world collapses and you can't commit commerce, you can't go to the bank, your credit cards won't work. We're basically dead in the water. It's going to go down, and we're going to take out we're going to control enough power to get back control of all the 8 spheres of influence. So now here's where what he's doing is like nothing that's ever been done before. He said, we're going to do that. But now we're going to take that reserve and we're going to have a stable coin backed by the US dollar, by the new rainbow currency that's been printed, that's coming out. And when you get that stable coin, you will be forced to buy a U.S. Treasury. That's what's going to create that cushion that we land on that keeps it from being catastrophic. Now, we're going to be basically under the U.S. Treasury. Like you said, we're going to be out from under the Fed and IRS. And here's the beauty of what Trump is doing, where under Carter, we lost power. Everybody, if you invested in the stock market or in a pension fund, your financial advisor was telling you invest in high growth. What was that? That meant you were paying for China to build their factories. We built China. Now, in the situation that Trump is orchestrating, they're going to build America back. They're going to do it for us. So unlike with Carter, where everybody was sending their money to China and building these leading factories, now several countries have committed $18 trillion to build factories in America. And it's real, and it became real when Donald Trump said those tariffs are now codified under law. And if I leave or get killed or whatever, it doesn't make any difference. So they're really bringing that money. And that takes us to what's happening in China. Basically, China has realized something out of history. Every time a superpower gets a little weak and somebody threatens it, 90% of the, well, 75% of the time, it's war. And with what China has seen with America and the new technologies that we brought out, they don't want to get messed with us in the Taiwan Straits. So they invited us to that meeting in China to discuss financial terms, which I call the Plaza Accords 2, where we're going to probably see them be one of the nations that says we're going to make a major financial contribution to the United States in exchange for what? For what Trump told us he was going to do. You bring your factories here, you build it in America, you pay no tariffs. So I don't know what the whole terms and conditions are going to be, but we're going to decide as two nations, America and China, it's too dangerous to go to war. We're going to reach a financial accord, and America then is going to get money from China and all these other nations, and we're going to rebuild our manufacturing, and that's going to lead to what's going to happen to trigger silver. And basically in the next 3 weeks, if you want to have me back, we're going to go into the deepest dive you've ever seen on 𝗬𝗏. Then we're going to go in, is it finally time that the currencies could reset? And if so, why? And then we're going to go into what happens with the metals. And then we're going to go into what happens with the digital system. So this is where we're at. So they're going to basically grow. What?
Let me interject here. Does a reset, when you say a reset, does a blackout have to happen? Do we have to unplug first? Is that the 10 days of darkness? Does that have to happen for this to kick off?
Probably. I can't say for certain, but probably, because as this happens, there's going to be a number of dynamics. The global elite are not going to want to lose control, so they're probably going to cause riots around the country. And if you cut the internet off, then they can't do that. There's a lot of reasons to say it's probably going to cause to have
Would you say that we are in that window now? Is this going to happen in 2026, 2027 timeframe?
2026.
Okay.
We're on the threshold. Like I said, I believe we are currently negotiating a new financial system with China right now. I think it started unannounced when Trump went there, and he didn't just go there by himself and with his entourage. He brought 18 of the biggest financial CEOs in the world. That spells financial negotiation.
AI, but it's all AI, big tech guys. I mean, this is shifting us into AI, which is scary as fuck to everybody.
The whole world is going to AI. So when we finish in a subsequent week or two, we're going to go into everything you could talk about. You're
just handing the keys from the dark to the perceivably the light, but it's a prison system. Digital. I mean, it's a digital prison AI. Am I wrong in saying that?
We don't have any choice. Basically, this has been being orchestrated for 13 years. So here, when we get down later and in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to show you, you're absolutely right. Donald Trump has said we are going to codify in America that the digital currencies will not be able to become programmable. In China, they are programmable. So that is another reason why we can't allow China to be the leader of the world, because that basically bursts the beast system. So if I go back to the Bible, here's what I say. There's a time and a season for everything. We're in the season where God is calling his people to revival. And we are going to have a period of peace until he reaches the point that his church, and that means in China and in Iran and all around the world, is spotless. Then we're going to go right into the deep depths of the book of Revelation and what you're predicting is going to happen. But that's in the future. So that's for another show.
So regardless, Trump is still setting us up for the B system. I mean, that's, I'm not worried about Trump. I'm worried about a post-Trump era. So, yeah, I'm right about that. This is going in a very bad direction regardless.
Yeah. But we don't have any control. This has been being orchestrated for 13 years. This is the path we're on. Right now, we're in biblical terms, we're in a tipping point. So what God does, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because I know you don't have a lot of time. God looks and
actually, my computer's holding up, so keep going.
All right. We don't look. God says that our concept of linear time is wrong. Everything is happening all at the same time. So he knows the end before the beginning. And we go through cycles where basically God says, you human beings are stiff-necked. So I have to put you under pressure and I have to force you to bend a knee and commit to me. And when you do, I always show up and I always say to you, we're coming into one of those periods where the people all around the world, France is rioting right now. The people in China are revolting. The people in Iran are revolting. The people in America are on pins and needles. So we're coming into this period where he's going to say, we're going to go into the Exodus. We're going to go in and we're going to set up a completely new economic system. And for a period of time, I'm going to have revival on the world, and we're going to see signs, wonders, and miracles the way we've never had. But here's what always happens. Let's go to the Exodus. We're now in the desert. We're now at Mount Sinai. Moses is up on the mountain, and he's gone for a scant 40 days. And the next thing you know, they're worshiping idols. They backslid. So over time, after we've had this period of peace and prosperity that we're going to usher in, we will backslide, and God will complete the story by taking us into the book of Revelation. But that's maybe not even in your lifetime. So let's don't worry about that right now. Let's go on down. Before we leave this, I want to show you what the new economic system is based on. This is coming off the debt clock. Every nation in the world is doing this. Donald Trump has said all nations must have economic parity. Eisenhower, first a general, then a president, said, is there any man, any woman, any child that doesn't understand the principal cost of war in the world is lack of equity between nations? So you take the poorest nation in the world, the poorest continent, Africa, is actually the wealthiest continent in the world based on this formula. So America, this is the accounting for America's real true value. Precious metals, $1.7 trillion. Mineral reserves, $131 trillion. Real estate, $86.3 trillion. Land, $30.3 trillion. Stocks, $64.1 trillion. Recaptured assets that we're going to take from the money laundering, child abusing people, $9.1 trillion. Total assets of the United States, $212.6 trillion, divided by the population of the United States. Every American is backed by a net worth of $620,000. That doesn't mean we're going to get it, but it means we're one of the wealthiest nations in the world, and the whole economic system is going to change. But that's the story for another day. We are seeing that we're going to be backing our currencies by a very, very large amount of assets, and therefore we're going to be able to run this whole world on a government, an economic system based on commodities, on God's economic system. So we can get into that in detail in subsequent weeks if you want. Right now, I want to go to basically saying to the people, you should trust the plan. It's very detailed. So let's go down. And this is where we're going into a period where, I couldn't inflict you with this. This is 17 individual topics that I discussed that relate to this, that I break down in detail. You don't have time for that. So I just want to say here, the Great Reset is honest, in my opinion. It started with that plane that went to China with all those executives, all those CEOs, and with Trump. And I'm only going to talk about 2 or 3. Each one of these bullet points is done in detail over a 6-week segment that I do on my own show on Liberty Crusade Official. So if your people want to go there, they can see this in detail. I think for you, that's overkill. You got too many other people competing to come on your show. But I can go next week and go into the SAR, and then I can go into the metals and so forth. So let's go on down, and we go to the next one.
let's do that on ninoscorner.tv. You willing to do that?
Sure, I'm willing to do it if you're willing to do it. All right, let's go on down. Let's go to the next one. I'm only going to spend time on a couple of these slides. So that's where my book happens to be. I wrote this book 3 years ago. God won't let me release anything and tells me it's the appointed time. The book just happened to be named 3 years ago, Restoring Your Public. I brought it out and I completely rewrote it to bring it up to where it was at the absolute moment. It's based on the Bible. It's based on history. It's based on current events. It's based on analysis of all the puzzle pieces that I put together over hundreds of years so that I can put you in a position where you're at the 60,000 foot level, looking down, seeing all the puzzle pieces, understanding what's been done. And that gives you the power to become empowered to step into the positions that will be relinquished when we find out that most of our politicians are corrupt and will be removed. We need an army of informed, educated people to step into our government, into our corporations, into our banking system, and lead us in a godly fashion. Let's go on down to the next slide. I'm going to spend some time on this next one because I really want you to see how Donald Trump is dismantling the entire global financial system. So I don't have room to put names, so I put abbreviations, so I'll decipher it for you. BG stands for the Bilderberg Group. That's what Kennedy was talking about when he talked about all the secret societies, Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, on and on and on. Those are the puppets that control us. And then you've got the UN, and they tried 3 different times until in 1945, following the World War II, they said, we're going to codify and give you your UN, and it's going to be a peace organization. It's anything but that. It is the organization that keeps the entire world in economic slavery and keeps us constantly in perpetual war. And Trump, as we go into the details of what I've got, you will see that the Board of Peace is going to nibble away at the UN until it's gone. We're going to get out of the UN. And NATO, we're nibbling away at NATO. We're giving notice to Europe. You will no longer be protected by us unless you pay for it. Period. End of statement. And to show them that he means it, he just pulled 5,000 troops out of Germany. And then let's go on down. USAID. That's supposed to be a charity organization. But he came in and said, nope, that's nothing but a money laundering institution. And he got us out of it immediately as soon as he came in his second term. Then we go to the World Trade Organization. And that's the organization that was used by Jimmy Carter, by the global elite, by the Chinese to bleed manufacturing from America to China. When we went into a trade agreement, NAFTA, that completely led us to where we're at now with a $39 trillion debt. We had $660 billion national debt when we entered into NAFTA, and now it's $39 trillion. But Trump has turned it around. He's negotiated new, fair, equitable, profitable trade agreements. He's imposed the world with tariffs, which is exactly what America did when we became, following the Civil War, the wealthiest, the youngest nation in the world, the wealthiest nation, based on those same tariffs. So he's basically tweaking the World Trade Organization in our favor. And then we go to the World Health Organization. He's outing what happened. We're out. So we're out of USAID. We're out of the World Health Organization and the World Bank and the IMF.
Be careful with this one. Be careful with this one.
Okay. Anyway, there are going to be changes made in those 2 institutions. So let's just leave it that way. And then down at the bottom, you've always got to understand how they do things. So the elite come at us from the bottom and the top and meet in the middle like a pressure cooker. So you've got these organizations at the bottom, the Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, the lying media, the Fed that inflicts us with fiat currency, the corporations that control us. You've got the academia that brainwashes our kids. You've got the unions that are paid to vote for the Democrats. And you've got the community organizing groups. And here's what they do. They say, we need, for example, same-sex marriage. And basically they amplify that. They give them a megaphone. And then along comes a president, Barack Obama, who says, I've now heard you, and we're going to have same-sex marriage. They do that over and over and over and over again. That's how they control us. Well, guess what? We're going to do the same thing to them. As we go through this, you're going to see that power, that ability is going to be on our side. We're going to squeeze them from the bottom, from the top, and put them in the vice, and we're going to get control of the world. That's what's coming. You can thank Donald J. Trump for all of that. Now we're going to go through speed talk. So let's go on down. So let's go to the next slide. And what you're going to see is the release of several stories that are going to show us that we have in fact had our election 2020, and then 71 other nations have had their election. We absolutely cannot have a sovereign government unless we have sovereign elections. So when we come into these midterms, there are going to be changes made, and they're going to have a heck of a hard time stealing the midterms.
Larry, this is, be careful with what you're saying here, but I'm right about this, right? This is not going to be the same game we've been playing coming into midterms. It's going to be a completely different ball game, isn't it? The Democrats that are planning to do whatever they think they're going to do, not going to happen.
I've got, like I said, there's a whole presentation on this, but I'll just jump to just a couple of bullet points that I can get out of my head. Basically, we're going to have new registration rolls, so we don't have dead people voting. We're going to have same-day results. We're going to have paper ballots. All the things that allow them anywhere in the world. It's so simple. It's not even funny. You could write it on a. All
right, let's go to the next. I don't want to stay on this because of fluff too. Let's move on.
Let's go down. So let's go down. Treason. People say nobody is held accountable. Well, when we have all these scandals released and we find out what's really been done to us, let's just jump to Minnesota. That's the first one that's really truly broke. And I don't remember the lady's name. I didn't follow it in detail, but one of the ladies involved in those money laundering deals in Minnesota just got 41 years. That's a life sentence. And we're hearing people say, well, there are criminal investigations of multiple people in Congress. So it's happening. And when it happens, they're going to get held accountable. So you're going to see that unfolding. Like I said, these are all just vignettes telling you that the whole show is done on these topics. Let's go to the next one. Gold-backed debt-free currency is what is coming. And it's absolutely here. And let's go on down to the next one. I'm just going to go through these to let you know if you want more detail on them, I've got it. You can get it. We can do all of this on Nino's Corner if you want. And what it's going to lead us to is he who controls money controls the world. So what you're seeing there is the control mechanism where the global financial elite who control the money are able to control banking, the political system. They're able to control the religious system. Entertainment, the media, education, the corporations, and the military. That is the totality of the control system of the world. And as we flip over and we control the money, we control all those spheres of influence and everything changes. Let's go on down, go to the next slide. Hold on, my computer just glitched. Give me just 1 second. All right, so now we go down to something very important. This is far more involved than you think, people. This isn't just people coming up willy-nilly from South America into the United States. They're coming from all over the world, and they're coming with intent, and they're going to Europe with intent. Any nation that doesn't have a sovereign border has no nation to be sovereign over. So I really go into detail on the immigration issue, and it goes to things like you wouldn't even believe. For example, just one quick thing. We have something that's advertised around the world. It's called birth tourism. You can get yourself pregnant, get a baby in the bun, and come into the United States and drop that baby here, and that baby is an American citizen, and then you get to stay, and then all your relatives get to stay, and the next thing you know, America ain't America. So we got to dig deep into this. So this is just a highlight to tell you, all of these things have to be changed fundamentally. 5 minutes?
No, I'm just saying, look what's happening to Europe right now. All of Western civilization in Europe is falling right now to the immigration invasion that's happening right now. It's completely in collapse, which was designed to do that. They were going to do that to America.
They're trying. They're trying. So now let's go on down. And this is something I know most people don't know anything about. The complete economic system of the world is going to change, and it's going to change philosophically. America had something called the American economic system. Very few people know about it, where the British free trade system controlled the world. They hoarded resources. They basically sold products cheaper than anybody because they got the natural resources free from the colonies. They created their trade items in sweatshops. Well, with the American economic system, I'll tell you real quickly what it was. We went bankrupt. following the Civil War. And we said, we're had enough, England. We are going to come against you economically. And we put tariffs, it's the same thing Trump is doing, on England, 50% tariffs. That forced us to basically get access to our natural resources. We developed the Transcontinental Railroad. Then we developed the Industrial Revolution so we could produce our own goods. And we drove the world into the greatest period of economic prosperity there was. England had a 300-year head start on us. And in 34 years, America proudly announced that its centennial anniversary in 1876, America, the youngest nation in the world, is now the wealthiest nation in the world. And I go into detail as to how they did that. And that's exactly the same plan that Trump is using right now. He's not making things up. He's going back and find out what worked in the past, what made us great in the first place. That's why he can say safely, I will make America great. No, I will make America greater than ever, because now we had to innovate all that technology. And now, thanks to him, we have 5,915 patents queued up, ready to be brought to scale to change the world in a way it's never been changed before. Let's go on down. And energy independence. Within those 5,915 patents are suppressed technologies that will blow your mind. And the most important have to do with energy, because most people don't understand that when they drive up the cost of energy, they make it so that we can't afford the necessities of life. Everything you've ever bought in your life, you don't realize it, but by far the greatest cost component is energy. So I'll give you one quick example. You're going to buy a car. It originates in a strip mine where they dig up 10,000 pounds of ore and drop it into a truck, both run by diesel. It goes to a smelt run by coal. It goes from there to 120 manufacturing facilities to be assembled. And then basically it's shipped all around the world. And the principal cost of all of that is energy. But if we have free energy, that means the cost of your automobile, of all your appliances, of your food, of everything you will ever buy the rest of your life will be probably 50, 60% cheaper than it is right now. We need to drive home what is coming to the world. Let's go on down. And we have to have a situation created, and go to the next slide, where we can't have intentional disruptions in the logistics change, which means we have to have access to the critical minerals. We have to have access to rare earth, for example. So does every other nation. We can't have a situation where we have to look at anything like the computer chips and say, oh my God, they control whatever. We have to have that distribution around the world so they can't artificially cause breaks in the logistics system. All that's coming. We're going to have a completely new economic system. And instead of making things that are designed to be replaced every couple of years, they'll be designed to last as long as humanly possible. And what that's going to do is change the equation for what the global elite claim. We've got to kill you. We got to reduce the population by 7.5 billion people because you're consuming too many of our natural resources. Bullcrap. They're wasting them by making products that are reusable, that are not reusable, making products that fall apart. We'll make products that last virtually forever, and that's going to change the whole economic equation of the world. Let's go on down to the next slide. Fair, equitable trade agreements. Trump is going around the world and negotiating different trade agreements. The whole economic system of the world is going to change. Let's go to the next one. And now, basically, we hear more and more all over the place. I know you have people on Nino that are experts in this. This is not my area, but I truly believe we have med beds. We have technology based on light frequency and based on things that are truly revolutionary and gotten in the medical field. What did Trump just do? I worked in the medical field for 22 years, and some of the pharmaceuticals that you buy had 4,000% profit margins. Trump just come in and said, you're not going to take advantage of this anymore. We want the lowest prices. The lowest price anybody in the world gets is the same price we get. Everything is changing, and we're going to go to a system that incorporates the best of our modern systems for diagnosis and surgery and so forth, but also has holistic medicine included. And this next one, let's go to the next slide. This is something that we'll need to discuss in real detail. the U.S. will exit NATO, and he's already beginning to nibble away at it. And you ask about the Abraham Accords, we could talk about that in greater detail. But basically what it comes down to, I don't care how much they hate us, the final analysis is economics drives partnerships, and we are going to be in economic partnership with all the oil producing nations, because oil is the lifeline of the blood in America, and the oil rich nations are going to control that lifeline. Let's go on down. And the lie about immigration is America, America, America. You've got a responsibility to take all these people, and they say immigration is a human right. No, here's the truth. For a period of time in American history, when we had built our infrastructure for about 20-year period, we said there will be no immigration of any kind, not legal or otherwise, because we can't afford to take all these poor people in, and they're not assimilating, and that will destroy our culture. So they basically said no immigration of any kind until we can assimilate those people and until we can get our economic situation under control. That has to be faced as an economic reality. Let's go on down and go to the next slide. We're almost done. I'm trying to get this done before your battery dies. We must have global financial parity. Trump said it over and over again. We can't have peace. And that means we can't have 𝗬𝗏, because one of the conditions for 𝗬𝗏 is global peace unless we have economic parity. And as I said a minute ago, it was Eisenhower who said, is there any man, any woman, any child that doesn't understand the principal cause of war in the world is lack of economic purity? So we're going to stop Western hegemony around the world. We're going to let all the nations of the world develop their natural resources, build their infrastructure, have their manufacturing, and we'll all be in a situation where the poverty in the world will be abated and everybody will have a decent standard of living. Let's go on down, and we're almost done. Peace and prosperity. They have two requirements: financial parity, which I just talked about, and shared goals. And so what we're going to see is the world has finally said we're tired of constantly being controlled by the global financial elite, of having a financial system that is nothing but economic slavery, and having wars constantly inflicted on us. So the whole world wants peace. And I've just laid out for you in these 17 slides what is required to deliver that peace to the world. Let's go on down. There's the last of it. God has the plan. He knew it from the beginning to the end. And what he's done is he's let the people in China suffer, the people in Europe suffer, the people in Iran suffer, the people all over the world, even in America. Why? Because he wants to bring us to our knees so that we will ask for his help. When we fall to our knees and we surrender to God, God shows up every time, and he will bring peace and prosperity to the world. All we have to do is submit. That's it. Now let's go back to the very last slide. And please, I encourage you to follow me on my channel, Liberty Crusade Official. Click on that QR code. And if you're convinced that the depth that you see here, it's in that book, it will empower you to be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. And if you're not absolutely convinced, click on it anyway, and I'll give you a free chapter to read. Until next time, if you want to come back in and dig into 𝗬𝗏, we can do that. Dig into the metals, we can do that. Dig into the cryptos, we can do that. And if you even want to do the 6-part series on all these on these 17 slides, I'll be happy to do that with you as well.
Let's do that on ninoscorner.tv. Larry, I appreciate you joining me. Let's take some super chats right now. I'm sure some people might have some questions. I don't know how many super chats we have, but let's just see what we got going right now. Alex, if you want to bring up the super chats. Kelly Pineski 576, thank you very much. You're always here for me. Thank you. Justin Guluzian, will silver certificates become redeemable again for actual silver? You can get them cheaper than 1 ounce of silver. Thanks, Nino and Alex, 2 Patriots. That's for you, Larry.
I have absolutely no idea. All I know is I stay away from paper. I don't know. It can be manipulated. So my position, I'm not a financial advisor. I like to hold it in my hand. That's all I can say. And
that's why you got to go take it. Noble Gold.
Take it a step further. The silver mines are going to be reopened. They're going to take silver to probably $500 or more, so that it's economically practical. But even with that, I don't want to gamble on which mines are going to be successful or not successful. Just give me a handful of gold. Give me a handful of silver. I'm there already. I don't have to speculate. So my comment is that's somewhat speculative, and I stay away from speculation. Let's go on down.
All right, Kelly Pineski, thank you again. Thank you so much. I guess that's it. Is that it, Alex?
Yes, sir. That's it for today. Thank you so much, Larry. That was an incredible rundown.
Yeah, that's well needed. My audience, I would suggest you watch this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times with your family. Try to really absorb it. Try to understand it. Larry Ballard, you really bring the heat, my man. Thank you so much for joining. You want to stick around for What the Fuck News?
Sure, I'll stay around for a while as long as your battery holds.
Yeah, I'm watching it. So in What the Fuck News, so folks, I had two pit bulls, right? And one pit bull was fine. Now, when I got the second pit bull, it turned into chaos. Like they went on rampages whenever they would escape from my house. They'd go on a killing spree in the neighborhood and kill puppies and cats. It was insanity. I couldn't control them. I finally had to put one of them down, and then Axel died later from old age. But I got to tell you, when I got these two pit bulls together, it was insanity. Anyway, Florida woman charged with manslaughter after dogs fatally maul, dogs, plural, fatally maul neighbor on a walk. A Florida woman has been arrested after her 2 dogs fatally mauled a neighbor who was walking in the area. Linda Cutler, 29 years old, was charged with manslaughter. And I want to know if you think this is fair or not. Was charged with manslaughter in connection with the May 19th incident. Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey said Jody Cohen, 50, was attacked by the mixed breed animals. So I don't know what they were during an early morning walk near the home in 𝗀𝗂𝗍, Florida. According to Ivy, Cutler's dogs climbed over a fence and attacked the victim, dragging her across the ground in the street. The dogs, identified as Max and Mako, climbed over the owner's fence and began to brutally attack and maul Cohen, forcing her to the ground, viciously attacking her, and eventually dragging her across the ground for quite some distance, the sheriff said during a press conference. It comes after a separate horrifying incident where a woman, 27 years old, was, you know what, and stabbed 50 times. The sheriff said surveillance video from a neighboring, this is a bad neighborhood, obviously. The sheriff said a surveillance video from a neighboring home captured the dogs running towards Cohen before mauling her to death. The victim suffered serious neck injuries and severe blood loss, and she died at the hospital 2 hours later. So I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Larry? You think someone should be punished for what their dogs do if you can't control your dogs?
I'm not a lawyer, but here's what I would say the defense will be. The defense will be if she had them free, not on a leash, then she's probably going to get charged with that. But they were in a fence. They were in a fenced yard. They got out. So that's what the legal position will be. So I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say.
Yeah, this is why, like, when I got my 2 pit bulls, man, it scared me to death after I saw them maul a dog, a cat. I used to have a big snake. They took the snake out of the aquarium and destroyed. I mean, it was like they were like their instincts kicked in and they became these killers, man. And I was like, you know what? Forget it. I had to put one of them down. I was like, I don't want somebody to be out walking with their baby in a stroller, and then this dog decides, you don't know. I don't, they go crazy. So I said, that's it. And I, one pit bull, he was fine. When I mixed him with the female and they got together, it's like the instincts kicked in and they went on a rampage. So for me, I think maybe, if she didn't see she couldn't read the tea leaves, then yeah, I mean, if you can't control your dogs and they're killing people, that's it, man. I don't think you should have those dogs. And at the very, maybe not a life sentence, but a couple years in jail, few years in jail, I think would suffice. But that's up for my audience to decide. Folks, I'm out of here. Larry, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you coming on. It was great. Folks, that's it. I'm out. My battery's about to give out. It's about to crap out. And the new heavyweight champion of podcasting and the black sheep of broadcasting.